Hey guys, this is the Helping Friendly podcast. We are live. It's just me and Megan today. Our colleague Brian is his whereabouts are unknown, but we do have some clues about where he might be, which we're going to hear in a second. But we do have a special guest today, Ray Paczkowski, who we're going to bring in momentarily. How are you, Megan?
I'm good. I'm on spring break, so, all smiles for me.
God, it's so great. I'm so happy for you.
It's so nice. I
Um,
know. I feel good. Thanks.
the spring is happening. We're going to talk to Ray about that. We're going to talk to Ray about a lot of stuff. But we did. Tomorrow's Brian's birthday, so we wanted to wish Brian an early happy birthday. But we also got some clues about where he might be. So let me just play this voicemail real quick and see if we can find out where Brian might be.
Hey, this is Alex in Missoula, Montana, and this inquiry might be more appropriate for Craigslist misconnections, but I'm wondering, I know that Brian went to school here in Missoula, and I'm wondering if it's possible that I saw him this morning leaving Bernice's bakery with his daughter. If not, please disregard this message. If it was Brian, then I regret not saying hello or introducing myself and letting you know how much I love the show. And yeah, since you were someone that lived in Missoula, I'm also kind of curious to know if you ever think that fish will return to Montana. I think the last show here was Fall 95 at the Adams Center. Trey has been here a couple of times, I think 2017 and maybe 2022. And yeah, I think there were some rumors swirling maybe like 3 or 4 years ago about the possibility of a Montana show that never came to fruition. We have big artists playing now at the football stadium on campus. I believe Shania Twain is coming this summer.
Whoa.
Pearl played there last summer. It would be amazing to get a fish show in Montana again. Could you imagine, Brian, walking to Charlie B's for a beer after seeing fish in the downtown area of Missoula? And what a great time, what a rager that would be. But anyways, yeah, just wanted to send my love and let you guys know, love the show, keep doing what you're doing, and I appreciate it a lot. All right, bye.
Okay, so
I
Brian, I
love
think
that.
was in Missoula, Montana. That's where he is. We have people on the ground who've seen him. So Megan, I think I'm gonna bring. I want to bring Ray on because I want to ask Ray if he remembers being in Montana recently. Let's
Let's
see
do
what Ray
it.
has to say. Hey Ray, how are you?
Hey there, I'm good. Sorry about the dogs. Colleen
Don't
just
worry.
got home, so
My
they're
dog is
yelling.
my dog is always barking in the show, so you're gonna fit right in.
All right, they'll quiet down in a second.
Do you do you have any recollection of Montana recently?
I remember we played at I think it was a brewery there. That was it. That was the last time I was there. I was actually my brother went to school in Missoula, back in the way back.
Okay.
So I remember the old town there.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, we're gonna have to get Brian's take on whether fish will ever go back to Montana. But today we're here talking with you, Ray, about LaMP. You guys have a new album coming out. There's a bunch of shows, and we want to talk about the music and get into some stuff. First, I want to just run down where you all will be, just so people can find you. I do. Well, I'll just say that you can find LaMP online. Is it still I Like LaMP?
I think it is. Yes.
Yeah. So I Like LaMP.
That's how I find out where I'm going.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
So I love that URL. I like lamp.com. Okay, so today's the 18th of March on Tuesday. So Ray, you'll be in New York on Thursday, the 20th, DC on the 21st, and then Kingston, New York on the 22nd. Then you guys go to the new Garcias in Chicago on April 4th and 5th.
Mhm.
festival down in Florida, the 10th to 12th. You're going to be at Asbury Park later in May, Ardmore, which is about 2 minutes from my house. I'm hoping to be at that show. And then you're playing a bunch of festivals: High Sierra, Northlands, the Gisum Crow Festival, which I just saw some info about, Floyd Fest, and then the Annapolis Baygrass Festival. So that's a lot of dates, especially for you guys who are already, playing in a bunch of bands. And I guess that leads me to my first question, which is listening to this album, One of Us, which is really great. It feels like so much more. It feels or sounds a lot more intentional. Like it feels like it's got these songs that you guys were all like really putting a lot of effort and intention into. Whereas I think the first album was a little more groove based. It was a little more like fun. It felt like kind of like a party vibe, and this felt like you guys were like going in to really like do some different kinds of songs. And I know in the release that was out there, you said the goal was to get a fire going. So I guess maybe that's what I'm hearing. But tell us a little bit about this album and what your intention was kind of coming into creating new music with LaMP.
Well, after the first record, then COVID hit and everything sort of stopped, and then when things started up again, we went out and just playing those tunes and figuring out what this band really was just an eye opener. And I think when we went in to do this album, we definitely had I don't know, more of a process than the first one was. Kind of like people brought ideas, went in the studio, and that's what it was. And this one, I think, was more, we were sharing a lot of files, ideas, and Russ will send a drum groove, I'd figure out a melody, or Scott would figure out a melody or a feel. It just kept sort of the interaction, even in sharing files, sort of gave the music more of an intention, because I think we kind of knew what the band could do and the direction it was kind of going, so that definitely focused it. So that when we were in the studio, we did a couple rehearsals. Even imagine that. That was new, and that just kind of crystallized it. And there were a lot more songs actually and ideas, but these were the ones that we decided to focus on.
Yeah, it's really exciting. You can hear there's a really nice mix to the songs. There's some that are really tight and energetic, kind of that funk groove that you expect from you guys. But then there's also a lot of like melody, and you've got some really nice like textured and psychedelic stuff too. It sounds awesome. It's mixed really, really well.
Yeah, that was Chris Connor. He's great.
So Ray, when you guys I know you said that you're sharing a lot of files back and forth. I know on that first track, there's a lot of kind of Scott's, riff over the first track on One of Us, which is called Cosmo, I think. But then there's some where you're kind of, you have the riff of the song or the melody. And how did you guys? Is it like kind of whoever feels the inspiration and jumps in with an idea and like respond? Like how do you sort that out and make it so evenly like even sounding throughout all the tracks?
Well, it varies from song to song. Like that first song, Cosmo, was a piece of music that Russ and I had been sort of messing around with when Soleiman was just going out. And that melody it's a clavinet melody, and that's kind of the basis of the tune. And then when Scott got a hold of it, he, just that whole section in the middle. Well, once people listen to it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But he just sort of comes up with these things, and some of them stick, some of them don't. He'll try different things till he gets something that he's very intentional about it. It's really great. And a lot of those melodies on that record are his, that he came up with, and it's just I still don't know them. They're just very interesting.
That's really cool. And Megan, feel free to jump in with questions whenever. And I just want to ask, like you and Russ, I think you have this long history together, and you played with Scott a bunch. I feel like the groove and the kind of psychedelic grooves that we're used to hearing, you hear a lot here, but there's also some songs that are like a little more like hard edged. There's a little more like edge to some of these songs. Was that part intentional, or is that just kind of what you all were contributing at the time?
I think it's a lot of that is Scott and Russ, I think. Some Scott, he'll go, he has such a large dynamic range, he's just interested in every kind of music and style. And so a lot of the sort of harder ones, that's sort of guitar driven stuff. Like he'll come up with this chordal sort of idea, and that will inform how we're going to do the tune, because Russ will have the groove that he wants to work with, and Scott will say, "Here, let's try this," and then I'll figure out a bass line, or Scott will figure out a bass line and feed it to me, and then I'll screw it up, and it will become something else. But yeah, it's all very organic, and it's just kind of three people getting together in the garage, basically, and saying, "This sounds good to me," and we're all sort of like-minded in that way. It's really kind of a lucky coincidence, I think.
You can really hear that when you play live. Like it's very communicative and it just feels very tight between the three of you. It's really exciting to be in the room with you. I wanted to ask you about the song The River Jordan.
Hmm.
That song, I think it's so interesting. It sounds different than a lot of the other songs in the album. It has this like really warm, softer tone in the beginning over kind of Russ's rolling drums. And when you come in the organ, it just like swells so beautifully and the song kind of opens into this really lush embrace. Is that a song that came from one of these shared files, or was that something you wrote like together when you were in a room together?
That started out as just a chord pattern and with a sort of payoff section, and that I brought into the band, and then Russ sort of grabbed a hold of it, and he really liked it, and he had this idea which you hear on the record, and then Scott was like, "Oh, let's," we tried different things with it, but it's definitely a studio tune in the sense of there's all kinds of overdubs and stuff. It was really fun to do. But
Oh, that's interesting. So it'll sound different when you play it live?
I think so.
Yeah, that's
We've only
cool.
tried it a couple times, but um, we'll see what happens. I love playing the tune. I mean, the whole song is sort of about drama, I think.
Yeah, you can hear that. It's beautiful.
Ray, what do you guys when you get on stage? Because I know I've seen you, Megan's seen you. I'm sure a lot of people listening have seen you. What's it like playing with the two of these guys? Given how much you've played with Tab and with Russ and with so many other bands, like what is it? How does it feel getting on stage with LaMP, and what is that experience like?
It's like getting into a down comforter. It's on a cold day. I don't know. It's so effortless. Like it just playing with those guys. They're so good and they listen so hard that, like I said, it's almost effortless. I feel like I could play anything or nothing and it would just sound great. Like either one of them could just play by themselves for an hour and I would be entranced.
Yeah, totally. You can definitely hear that. I think the effortlessness is really something that comes across, and you also look like you're having a ton of fun.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
curious about how that happened. I know in 2018 you played at Nectar's. How did that first gig kind of come about between the three of you?
That actually, the reason that came about is Russ and I with Solimona have our booking agent Pat May, and Scott was working with him as well for something. I forget what it was. Might have been Wolf or something like that. And Pat had been talking about Scott. I didn't really know Scott. I knew his music. Um, and Pat had been talking about Scott for a long time to us. It's like, you should get together with this guy and see what happens. And he finally got tired of us saying, "Oh yeah, it's one of these days," and he just did it. He's like, "I got this gig for you, and Scott's on it." I think maybe he was playing in town or something, but it worked out. But that was all Pat May sort of machinating or whatever the word might be, and we just instantly hit it off. It was just completely easy. We played a bunch of Suleiman songs, Wolf songs. I don't even remember what else, but and we improvised some things. And it's just his playing is it just so completely fit in with what Russ and I were doing at the time. Um, because it wasn't so much like a lot of chords and filling in the space. He just left all the open space, and he's playing these sort of, I wouldn't call them simple, but simple in the sense of not that much harmony in the lines. So he's playing more melodically, and it just instantly, what I had never heard anything quite like it. And I still feel that way with this band. Like every time I hear us playing, I'm like, I've never quite heard something like this. Like, I don't know why that is or what it is, but, and that
Yeah.
for a musician is incredibly exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting for an audience too. Every time I've seen you play with LaMP, everybody walks out just really excited about what they've heard and ready to come back again. And you can see that with how much you're being called to book, which must be hard because you all have a lot of other bands that you work with. But I'm glad
Yeah.
you're making time for LaMP.
Oh yeah, no, we all love doing it, and we feel the same way at the end of the night as the people walking out. I guess if what you say is true, which I hope it is, we're like, boy, that was great. Like, I can't wait to do this again. You know,
Yeah,
even if
that's
there
so
were
great.
5 people there, it still would be just as fun. I mean, it wouldn't be as fun, but
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't
you
think you
know,
have to worry
but
about that.
yeah, well, right now we don't, which is it's just amazing.
I know you guys played just a couple days ago at Dharma Bums in New Hope, which is near here. I know like small room. It seemed like that was a lot of energy, and it's a lot of you guys have a lot of gigs coming up, but you have like clubs and then festivals and theater. Like it's all a big range of venues that you're playing. Do you guys adjust to that at all? I mean, sound wise you do, but like in terms of how you approach, or do you just go out at every show and kind of think about it the same way?
We think about it the same way. I mean, we have a goal, which is to make this music, whatever that is. But we all have big ears, so whatever the sound is like, that we're gonna play to that, if that makes sense. So like that New Hope gig's got low ceilings, it's a small room. So it just was sort of down and dirty, like bass drums, and had that, because I'm playing the Hammond bass, it's a room like that it's just made for that instrument. It just it's like
Yeah,
this
that's great.
tight kind of deep thing. So yeah, and then on a festival stage, you're relying on the monitors, and we don't use in-ear monitors, so you're in just a big room of air, so it's different. But I don't know. So far, we haven't done a whole lot of festival gigs, but I love doing them. And it's those gigs like that. It's more you get up and go, get the stuff together, and then okay, time's up, go. Whereas like, smaller gigs, club gigs, there's a lot of time to talk about the music and what we're going to do, and just sort of get the vibe. You get a sound check, you can kind of know what it's going to be like. So yeah, there's definitely differences, but I think musically, just depending on what we're all hearing, that's what we're going to play.
You talked a little bit about your organ. What's the rest of your rig setup for LaMP?
I have a clavinet, which is my favorite instrument of all time after the piano, I think, and a Wurlitzer electric piano.
Nice. How does that differ from your rig with Tab? You have a bigger rig with Tab, right?
Yeah, it's a big, because we have a digital piano, so because it was too difficult to bring a real piano. We had a real piano for a while. That was really fun. But I love playing the piano, and a lot of the tunes that Tab was doing is, it's just sort of wants that. So that's the only other addition besides the Hammond, the clav, and the Whirly. There's a piano.
So I want to ask you, when you bring Scott in, I mean, you and Russ basically are, joined at the hip in some ways in all these different bands. Like, is it like when Scott comes in, are you letting him into your Suleiman world and your Tab world? And I mean, does it feel like you guys are kind of filling him in on your musical conversations, or how does that work to bring someone into a long-term musical partnership?
It's just like finding a new brother, a new family member. It's just wonderful. Scott is great. He's a great person, a totally humble guy, just like Russ and I. Although maybe I'm not as humble. I've been But no, it's just and musicians are always swapping stories. So, we get the J-Rad gossip and
Yeah.
Scott gets the tab gossip. We're like old ladies drinking tea sometimes. Hilarious.
Yeah, well, those guys have a lot of fun, and they, J-Rad, they're like all over the place, and so many different interesting personalities in that band. So I'm sure there's, plenty of stories and fodder. One thing I was going to ask you, Ray, we were Megan and I were both at Tom Marshall's 60th birthday
Mhm.
party I guess that was a year and a half ago now. But watching you guys play, one set with Scott and then a set with Trey, it was really interesting to see and hear the difference, but also the similarities, I guess. And I know you've played with so many different people, and it might be hard to compare, but how do you think about that? Like playing with Scott as a guitarist versus playing with Trey as a guitarist. What are those styles like totally different and to adjust to, or how do you think about that?
Their styles are different. They both have their own unique thing that they do. It's the material is different, I guess.
Mm,
That
mhm.
the sort of raw material is different, and plus there's no vocals, so there's no sort of verbal story,
Yeah.
which Trey is a master of, so this is like, how do you get it across just instrumentally? Get a certain feeling or a vibe or an emotion. And I love doing that. So I don't need any
Yeah.
singers. Come on.
I didn't really think about that, but that makes a lot of sense. It actually is much harder, right? It's like when you have to paint a picture instead of writing a story. It's you have less tools, and so you have to be more creative, I guess. That's really interesting. When you're writing, is there something that inspires you, or are you kind of like writing all the time, or are you one of those people who sits down really intentionally to write?
Sort of both. I think all three of us we're always writing in our heads. A melody pops into your head, or you hear something like, "Oh, we should do something with that." And I just hearing Russ play, like even at sound check, he'll just play some random thing. I'll be like, what, wait, what was that? He's like, what? I don't know. He's like, no, remember that, because hearing that rhythm inspires something, and I hear something. It's like, oh, there's a melody in there so a lot of times that's kind of how it works. I'm not sure I answered the question.
That
Oh,
yeah, but
definitely.
yeah, and it also makes me think like you probably in those sound checks you probably hear a lot of the drum beats and rhythms that you do recognize. So it probably like catches you when you hear something different or new.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we like you said, we were just playing last weekend. I was on the road with Russ. We drive together in a van, and he this old friend of his had sent him a recording from, I think it was the Zebra days. I can't remember.
Hmm.
Um, but it was this scratchy like recording, and Russ is playing, and Russ is like, "Oh, there it is. It's what was it? First Tube." It was
Oh
like
wow.
that was
Wow.
like the basis of, and that was like 30 years ago, more. So like I guess my point is that all the music that we're playing now it's just been evolving since we've just been playing music. You hear something, it comes out a different way, and then it turns into this, turns into that, something new gets added. But you can trace all the stuff back to like long time ago now.
It's so amazing to have a partnership like that, to have someone you've been playing music with for so long, and to be a creative partner like that. It must be so nice. And
Oh, it's a gift.
yeah, must be really fun. Do you ever like get to know each other outside of music? Do you ever like see each other's families and partners and hang out like that? Or is it
Oh
something
yeah,
you're just busy?
all the time. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
so nice.
Russ lives 10 minutes away from me. So I
That's
see him
amazing.
all the time. Yeah.
You guys have been in part of Tab now for what, 25 years ish?
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, that's a really
Wow.
long time for a band. Obviously, there were breaks and all that, but like a continuous band like that as a project that's not full time is just it's amazing to me. It's evolved so much with so many different players and so much different music. How do you look at that? Like, I mean, if you think about the whole arc of it at this point, I mean, what how do you explain it to people? Or maybe if you meet someone who's like, oh, you're a musician, what's your band like? I mean, how do you think about that with so much
Oh
time and
yeah.
evolution?
Yeah, I don't even know how to explain that band. Because there's just the I mean, I guess in some ways it's like Fish as far as the amount of material that I mean, Trey is just prolific. So it's constantly changing, constantly evolving. And I mean, to put it in perspective, my daughter is turning 26. So when
Okay.
I first started playing with that band, she had just been born. So it's it's
Her
like,
whole life.
yeah, it's like those people are to me are like family, absolutely. And it's really it's beautiful when we do get together and play. It's like no time has gone by. It's really a wonderful thing.
That's amazing.
No,
And
this
you
is making me
guys,
want some new tab dates, to be
I know,
honest.
I know exactly. And
Me
you guys,
too.
you, you,
Yeah.
what's it for you, because you do play so much of the melody but also the bass. I mean, you cover a large spectrum of the sound. What's it like with the horns, and how do you like what are the kind of different things you have to keep in mind when you're playing with horns versus without horns?
Um, to be less, it's be more supportive, I guess, like with the horns there, because they're kind of carrying, but it's not always the case that they're carrying it. Sometimes they're like in the same range as me, like I'm sort of another horn in a way with that band. I mean, but some of the horn lines are these intricate, exotic, melodic things that
Yeah.
I'm just trying to stay out of their way. And that's sort of the focus of the tune at that point in the tune.
Just stay out of the way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I know if I get in their way, Gary will just turn me down.
Yeah.
They're like, no, enough of that.
It's a cool, I mean, it's amazing. And it's at this point, you go to a tab show and you can hear, I mean, it's almost like you're listening to an album, because you guys are all like
Yes.
so in sync with each other, and you've been playing these songs for so long. Even new songs, they appear to be like so well synced. And I guess part of that's the arrangements of it, but you can just tell that you guys like are listening to each other all the time.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And as far as the arrangement stuff goes, Trey is always trying to, just streamline and make songs more focused. Um, he's always saying, yeah, you got to use the other side of the pencil. So like if anything you can take away
Mm.
and just make it get the, you know, the stuff that needs to be there, then it's just gonna focus everyone. And he's absolutely correct, I think.
Well, I always am amazed when I see a tab show because it's such a big sound, but like RJ is saying, it's so compact and tight. And I always feel like I'm just on a train whenever I'm like tabs there. You get on the train and you just go. Like you
Yep.
guys all just have such a forward momentum and it always just sounds so connected. It's thrilling. I love when I get to see you play in smaller rooms. Like you played Brooklyn Steel last year, and that was just so awesome to see you guys so close and just to feel that power like in such a small room. I remember a few years ago, maybe in like 2019, it was a while ago, you played Brooklyn Bowl, and to be that close to that much power was really fun.
Yeah, it's the train is a really good metaphor. I think about it the same way.
A couple more tab questions, if you don't mind, and then we'll wrap up with more about LaMP. Because our Fish audience has questions, so we have to ask you more questions
All right.
about that band. When sadly when Tony passed away, and then Desron came on. I mean, Desron adds this like totally different sound, but the songs don't sound that different. Like after once he got kind of integrated into the band. I'm just curious what that transition was like for you all, being, of course, losing a friend and then having to figure out how to bring someone new into that like critical role, especially in that band where the bass was just, even more the foundation of the sound.
Well, Des, he was. I remember after Tony passed, there was discussion of like, what are we going to do and what do we want to do? But Des, I've known Des for God, since the 90s. And he and Jen went to school together. And that's kind of how I got to know him. And Russ the same. So he was already like family, because we've been playing together for a long time and at various things. And he's just a monstrous bass player. I mean, he's incredibly good. And you're right, his sound is different than Tony's, but he knew the music. He was into it. And in rehearsals when we were first trying it out, Trey would be like, "Yeah, you make up your own. You don't have to play Tony's bass line." And he would mostly say, "Why wouldn't I play Tony's bass line? It's perfect."
I love that.
Like he did all the work. It's like I wouldn't change a thing, So, so there's a lot of respect there, and no, and he's just a beautiful guy and a great player, and it was kind of seamless.
That's
It
amazing.
seemed like the way the chemistry too between him and the rest of the band was really evident, like right away.
Oh
And
yeah.
probably like what you said from knowing you and already and being so connected to everyone personally. But yeah, it was exciting to see that first tour that he did and just see him engaging with Trey and with the whole band. You could tell it was something that was going to work right away.
Well, good. That's good to hear.
We have a couple comments in the chat here. People are excited to see you out there. I know that I mentioned I did the kind of rundown of the dates earlier, but you all are going to be at the new Garcia's in Chicago for 2 nights, which is cool. And I know that they are getting a ton of good shows through there. So you're going to be on the road at least on and off for the next several months. How do you like being on the road at this point in terms of touring? Like, are you happy to kind of get out there and see the country?
Yeah, I like doing it. I like going to new places or old places and playing.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a homebody though. Like I love coming home, so
Mhm.
it works out perfectly for me. Like if I was going out for 2-3 months at a time, that would be difficult, I think. I like being home. We have lots of animals and a little farm here, and so I like it both. I like being out on the road and I like coming home. So
Great. That's a great
Perfect
combo.
balance.
The album does come out on Friday. I should have said that earlier, so people can check that out. And you can order vinyl, of course, which I'm going to get on that after this. You can pre-order now, and you can check out everything at the website. But I guess, Ray, anything else you want to say about this album that we haven't touched on? I feel like we, touched on some of the main elements. Is there anything we haven't talked about?
I guess I don't know what I would say about it. This record, we're all really proud of it, how it came out. And I don't think we really knew what it was going to be till the songs really started becoming a concrete thing. Because, a lot of them, most of them, we had never played live before. So they were, this unknown quantity, blank slate, whatever, like uncongealed jello or something. I'm not sure what. And subject to change at any time while playing it live, because we don't really make ourselves, it has to go this way. If something happens while we're playing it, it's like, well, let's go that way. I mean, it doesn't have to be. I mean, the songs on the record, I think, are little snapshots, little portraits of this piece of music. And then when we get a hold of them live, they become another animal in a way. And I think that's sort of one thing that the record was trying to do, is just like, let's put a bunch of ideas on a record in a concise musical way and then go out on the road and play them and figure out how they actually go. I think it was kind of like that, but I really love the record.
Yeah, it's one of those records that you play it and then you just press play again. Like you just want to hear it again. It's really, really nice. And did you record? I believe you recorded your first album in Vermont. Did you record this one up in Vermont as well?
Yes, in Burlington at the Tank Studio, Ben Collette.
Nice. Drag Metzger out of the city, then up to Vermont.
Yep.
It's good.
It's so cool, and I did the same thing that Megan described. I listened to it and then I listened to it immediately again. So I think a lot of people will feel that way. And like I said earlier, the tour dates and the album are at ilikelamp.com. And Ray, it was fun catching up, and really appreciate you being willing to sit down and chat with us in between tour dates.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been really fun.
Thank you so much, Ray.
All right.
And everyone else, we will be back. We're going to pick up our Mount Rushmore series next week. We're going to be talking about the song "Light," and we're gonna get deep into Light. Which, you know, Ray, if you have thoughts about Light, please share them with us. And otherwise,
Love and Light.
For the rest of you all,
3.0 Love and Light next week.
Yeah, exactly. And happy birthday to Brian, who's out there. Hopefully he'll listen. We'll have him back next week. But Ray, this was really fun. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you.